All right, thank you everyone for joining us this evening for Advancing Stormwater Management, a part of the City of Alexandria's celebration of Earth Month. My name is Megan Zimmerman, and I am a librarian with the Alexandria Library, and am very excited to have this conversation tonight to learn about how we can help not only our homes, but our waterways and our neighbors to keep healthy, clean water. Our presenter tonight is Jessica Lassiter, who is a senior environmental specialist and the Stormwater Division of Transportation and Environmental Services for the city. And Jessica, always enjoy working with you and having you come talk. So thank you so much for being here this evening.
Yeah, thanks so much, Megan. It's so nice to meet you all tonight. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. Megan is recording this, so you can feel free to share it with your friends and neighbors afterwards if you find it interesting or if there's anything you wanted to go back and check on. I have a presentation tonight with a couple of videos. We're going to be talking about water quality and also about flooding. I joined the city in 2019, and then we had a pandemic. And so we also had a bunch of super strong, severe storm events that occurred. And we developed a program after that as well. So that's a little background on how I came to this position. I am going to share my screen. Okay, you're seeing the right slide? Great, I appreciate it. Okay, thank you. All right, so I also want to kind of keep this pretty informal. We do have a small group tonight, and I really also thank you so much for taking your time to join us. And so if there's any questions as we go about the way, I think Megan can help me facilitate those questions. I don't know if we have like a chat feature, or if you want to raise your hand or just speak, however you want to do it. I think we can kind of take it from there. We do have an hour of time here. I don't know if we need to take the full hour, but we definitely can, especially if there's questions. And if there are things that I don't know that you ask me about, I'm happy to follow up with you as well. So already I see a little chat thing, but I'm gonna move along. I'm gonna let Megan ping me when she sees something for me to talk about. Okay. Press the button, Jessica. There you go. So again, tonight we're going to be going over stormwater management in the city, water resources, water quality, why it's important, opportunities for engagement. Again, this is Earth Month, so we do have a lot of opportunities, particularly in April, but going into May and also throughout the course of the year. I'm going to be talking about our Flood Action Alexandria program, which is our flood mitigation program here in the city that did start after those super severe storms that occurred in 2019 and 2020. As well as the end, we're going to be talking about like the icing on the cake. So that's some financial programs that we have for residents. So if you haven't been informed of these programs, then we're happy to talk to you about them and for you to maybe provide feedback if you have been using them, and tell your neighbors about them as well. So first, a little orientation. So the city, well, we have more population now, but we are approximately 160,000 residents or people that live here in the city. We have 15 square miles, so we're super dense, and we have a lot of hard paved surfaces, right? So we have a lot of roads and streets and houses and sidewalks where the rain can't soak in, it runs off. So we're a highly urban area. One thing I did want to note is that about 500 acres in the Old Town area is what's called a combined sewer system. And that's where you're going to have your stormwater and your sanitary water all in one pipe. And that gets treated at our Alex Renew wastewater treatment plant. That is different than the rest of the city, where we have two separate pipes. We have a stormwater pipe and a sanitary pipe. Those sanitary pipes go to Alex Renew to be treated, and our stormwater pipes go directly into our local creeks, waterways, and streams, the Potomac River, and ultimately the Chesapeake Bay and the ocean. So that's important to keep in mind because that can get confusing, even for people that live here for a long time, right? So I just wanted to go over that quickly. And I wanted to share this video. I just have to set up my computer a little bit. So if you can't hear this video, just let me know. Hopefully you can. I'm going to cross my fingers. And it kind of goes over the three water entities that are operating in the city. So that's the city of Alexandria. We have a sanitary sewer division and our stormwater division. That's Virginia American Water. That's where you're getting your drinking water from when you turn on your tap. And there's Alex Renew, which I mentioned a couple of times. That's where the wastewater goes to get treated. So this video, I think, provides a good overview of the three entities and how they operate in the city. And I think it helps set up this presentation nicely. Wish me luck. I can do this. There we go.
In Alexandria, there are three entities working together through our One Water partnership to make sure our waterways are clean. Yeah, three entities might sound confusing. So let's break down how we all work to ensure safe, reliable, and affordable water services to Alexandria residential and business customers like you. Here's how it all works. Your water comes from the Potomac River and Occoquan Reservoir and is treated by our friends over at Fairfax Water. Virginia American Water's pipes deliver safe and clean water to your home or business. So when you shower, brush your teeth, wash your clothes, drink a nice cool glass of water, you can thank Virginia American Water. Well, no, not that well. What happens to the used dirty water? The used water from your home or business is called wastewater, and it doesn't just magically disappear. The city manages the sanitary sewer pipes that capture wastewater from your home or business. Those pipes eventually connect to another set of pipes called interceptor pipes, which then direct the wastewater to Alex Renew's water cleaning facility. Once the wastewater and sewage gets to Alex Renew's treatment plant, it gets transformed into clean water through a rigorous cleaning process and is returned to the Potomac. When it rains, water runs over hard surfaces like roofs, sidewalks, and streets, picking up pollutants and carrying them into our local waterways. The city's stormwater efforts treat some of this water, reducing the pollution that enters our storm sewer system and eventually our local waterways, the Potomac River, and ultimately the Chesapeake Bay. In Old Town, where the sewers date back to the 1800s, one pipe carries both sewage and rainwater in a combined system. Work is underway to capture this combined sewage to keep our waterways healthy. Water touches everything we care about in our community. Alex Renew, the City of Alexandria, and Virginia American Water are proud to play our part in providing clean water to you.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad that worked out. Okay, so the next slide is just to kind of, I'm sure you all care about water quality. That's why you're all here on this call tonight. But I wanted to go over a couple of things that we, just to remind everybody about why we do care about water quality and why we don't want our waters to be polluted. So we think about our recreational uses, the critters that live in the water, and sometimes we eat those critters. And then also thinking about just recreating in the water, fishing, etc. And like I had mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have a lot of hard surfaces in the city because we're a very highly dense urban area. And this is a slide as to why water runs off, right? As opposed to soaking in the ground. So when you see the rain outside, it's raining where I am now. It is running off of the street in front of my house, but it is soaking into the grass, right? So when you think about that imperviousness or those hard surfaces, when you're in a forest, the water soaking into the ground, right? And then as you start to build up your community and start to get more hard surfaces, you're going to have more and more runoff. So that's what we manage in the city with our storm sewer system. So I think I've mentioned we're about 40% impervious. So we are seeing where we have a high percentage up to 30% runoff, and then a portion goes into the ground. And then, as the video alluded to, all the stormwater goes into our stormwater network, which then is sent to our local waterways, our local watersheds. And then here's a picture of Potomac River. The water and the Potomac. Okay. Eventually, it all ends up in the Chesapeake Bay. We're really excited to be part of the Chesapeake Bay here in the city of Alexandria, and then all of that goes over to the ocean. One thing that we developed was a way for you to locate your watershed. So the city has many watersheds within it, names like Hoofs Run, Strawberry Run, Taylor Run, Cameron Run, if any of those ring a bell. So what you can do is you can go online to this website, alexandriava.gov/GIS, and you can go to interactive maps and locate your watershed viewer. You can type in your address of whatever address you want to use if you want to check where you live, and it'll put a pin down and the watershed that you are in. So we created that to help build awareness for people to think about what their watershed is. And I keep saying watershed, but I haven't told you yet what that means. So watershed is where all the water topographically goes to one point. So when we talk to kids, we tell them to think of it as their bathtub, where you fill up your bathtub, and when you let the drain release, all that water goes to that one point. So that's what the watershed is. So if you think about, if you're standing over in 4 Mile Run over in Alexandria, when it rains, all that water is going to be going into 4 Mile Run, which is north of the city, then into the Potomac River, versus if you're standing down where I used to work in Taylor Run, when it rains, that water is going to come down and then go into Cameron Run and then into the Potomac River. So it's just where the raindrop falls and traverses down to. So we like to ask, like, what are the different types of pollution that we see in the city? And I think some of these are going to be super obvious and some might not be as obvious. But we do see a lot of trash and litter that just comes from living in an urban environment. Dirt, which can build up, from where sides are sloughed off of stream banks, for example. We also see excess nutrients from fertilizers. We do have an initiative for homeowners to sign a no fertilizer pledge to get money off of their stormwater utility fee. So we try to help reduce our nutrients coming into the waterways. There can also be excess salt during a lot of snowstorm events. Sometimes too much salt is put down, and you sometimes see that in like shopping centers and stuff like that, and that can get into our waterways and cause excess salinity. There's also an issue with pet waste, unfortunately, in the city, where people might not know to pick up after their dog or take the pet waste and put it down into a storm drain because they might not know where that storm drain goes to. So trying to educate the public about, the difference between a storm drain and the drain that goes to from your house to be treated, and also what to do, like proper pet waste removal, to pick up after your pet. And then because we are such an urban area, we do have a lot of traffic. We are going to see a lot of motor and oil and vehicle fluids coming off of our roadways when it rains. So we have all sorts of things happening. And then just in generally, what you can do is, one thing that we really want to urge the people that live and work in the city is to use our 311 system. So the system came from our old call, click, connect system, and now we use 311. So you can use your mobile phone and just press 311, or you can go online, go to alexandriava.gov/311, or you can Google Alexandria 311, and we can put in a service request. So if you see like a river that looks really cloudy and murky, or it smells, or there's somebody dumping something into the storm drain that doesn't look right, you can put in the request into 311. So instead of calling the police, like if it's an oil spill or something that looks like super dangerous and there's dead fish, like please call 911. But otherwise, you can use that 311 request system, and that comes directly to our team if it's a water quality issue, and we will go out and investigate. And because we are such a dense urban area, we are out investigating stuff all the time. Things happen all the time. And we really rely on you and your neighbors to report it, because we might be somewhere else looking at something when something else happens down the street, so we can't be everywhere at once. So we really want to educate everyone to use the 311 system to let us know, and then we can follow up accordingly. And I'll give a quick example. I was running in Arlington, which is not the city, right? It's not where I live either, but I was running there and I noticed that the stream that I was running next to was like super brown and cloudy. And I was like, this seems weird, right? So I kept running, and then I saw like a big gush of water. And so I called 311 from Arlington, because they also are in the 311 network, and it's based on like where you're calling from. And they were like, oh, there was a pipe that had burst, and they weren't aware of it. So they were out investigating it quickly after that. So it's something good, no matter what community you're in. The other thing is, I've already mentioned, is to pick up after your pet. And then do not litter is such an obvious one. And then reduce the use of fertilizer and or time it properly, right? So like you can definitely use fertilizer if you need to do that for your property. Just try not to do it right before a big rain event where it's going to be wasted and wash off and cause harm. So the next video that we have is just kind of going over what we term is IDDE, which is a super boring acronym, but it stands for illicit discharge and detection elimination. I think those are all the right words in the right order. But it's just like illegal dumping and things that should not go into the storm drain. And I will add that this is a nice not homemade, semi-homemade, city-made video with yours truly narrating it. It's super cringy for me to watch it. But we're gonna do it. We're gonna push through and we're gonna do it. Okay, here you go.
In the city of Alexandria, it is everyone's responsibility to keep our waterways clean and healthy. One way you can help is by allowing only rain down the storm drain, keeping your pet waste out of the inlets, and making sure your trash doesn't end up on the street and ultimately in our creeks. Sign up for the city's environmental e-news to learn about local stream cleanups and more. The city's storm sewer system takes rainwater and snowmelt off our streets and discharges directly into our local waterways, such as 4 Mile Run, which drains to the Potomac River, and ultimately the Chesapeake Bay. Another way you can help be a steward of our waterways is to contact Alex 311 if you notice one of our waterways to be a different color, like bright blue, fluorescent green, or muddy brown, or have a funky smell or odor. These are all signs that the water could be polluted, and staff will come out to investigate. If you notice anything suspicious after business hours or on the weekend or holiday, or you suspect what you have found is an oil spill, please contact 911 immediately. Together, we can help keep our waterways clean.
All right, we made it through that one. Thank you. One thing I wanted to mention in the video that I noticed is that, we talk about if you see the waterway fluorescent green or bright blue, you might be thinking, what in the world, right? We have had instances where there could be chlorinated water that comes into contact with our waterways when somebody is releasing their pool water, or there could be an illegal connection to the storm sewer system. So that has actually happened, which is why we bring it up. And then with the fluorescent green, I will mention the city does perform dye testing sometimes on our sanitary sewer lines to see where there might be some improper connections. And so sometimes that dye can show up in a creek. So it's just important just to call if you see something, anything weird in your community, just give us a buzz. All right. Look, now we're talking about some money. Okay. I feel like maybe these slides are a little bit out of order, but it's okay. We'll just jump right in here. So as I mentioned before, we have some financial programs for residents. So for people that own property in the city, we have our stormwater utility fee credit program, and then we have a flood mitigation grant program. And both of these programs are money back in your pocket. It's two different types of programs. They operate two different ways. So I'll go over them separately. So basically the stormwater utility fee is something that all property owners in the city receive twice a year. It comes with your tax assessment or your property tax. So you'll see two lines on your bill. You might not even know about it, might get bundled into your mortgage payment. So that's something to take a look for. And that utility fee credit program is in place so that if you do any type of work to mitigate the impacts you have to our to help our waterways, then we will be providing a percentage reduction off of that utility fee. And for that program, we focus on stormwater quality as well as flood mitigation. And I'll go over a little bit more of that in detail shortly. The flood mitigation grant program is money back directly into your pocket. That provides a 50-50 match up to $5,000 for single family homes and $25,000 for homeowner associations. And that focus solely on flood mitigation practices that you implement at your own property. So a little bit digging into the stormwater utility fee credit program. The stormwater utility fee came online in 2018 as a direct funding source for the city to fund water quality initiatives. The fee is, as I said, based on it's billed twice a year and it's based on your property type. So a smaller property would have a lower fee than a larger property. All this information is available online. You can definitely dig more into that as well. But we have changed the program since October of 23, I believe, to allow up to a 50%, so a half off reduction. And that I believe is good for 2 years. The thing with this program is because it's run through our finance department, so it comes through our stormwater management department and then it goes to finance, and finance is super strict, right? So you have to have your application in no later than February 15th. That is like a super hard deadline. So we have a window, an application window. We try to send out reminders and we try to have webinars and social media to remind residents of this program, and that as December is coming up, and then between December and February 15th. And then I want to say, like, we tried to keep it simple, right, in terms of how you apply for this credit reduction. We just require a picture, and Camille, who I work with, is the one who manages that program. She's really great to work with. If you have any questions about that, she'd be happy to work with you on that. I'll give you a quick snapshot of the types of things that we could take in to consider. So if you have a rain barrel, it's 5% off of your fee for a max of 20% for 4. So some of you might have many rain barrels and you could look into that. Some of the higher, the more popular items are the no fertilizer pledge. So if you have any type of grass in your yard and you stop or you never even use fertilizer to begin with, you just sign a form and you send that in, and that gets you good for 10% off. So that's good. Another one is mature tree preservation. That's been super popular. So that's if you have very large diameter trees, you do have to measure it already on your property, then we would give you a credit for that. So it just depends on like your area and your neighborhood and what you're doing. Okay, here's another video. So now we're gonna kind of move into the Flood Action Alexandria space. I mentioned that there's a grant program associated with flood mitigation on your own personal property. This video is gonna provide you a little bit more of a broader overview of the program, and then we'll kind of get more into it. I didn't have to narrate this one, so I feel it's less cringy. Okay.
The flooding caused by storms is one of the most common natural disasters in the United States. So the city of Alexandria is rising up and working hard to protect the future.
I'm not sure if there's volume, but we're not hearing, or at least I'm not hearing anything from this side.
Great, that video goes over a lot of stuff. So some highlights I thought from the video would be increasing inlet capacity. So I went and spoke with some 8th graders today who have been working on different projects related to stormwater and flood mitigation. And one of the kids was like, what is something that the city's doing to help mitigate flooding? Like he wanted to know answers now. And he had spoken with a city council member and they had shared that it's going to take a lot of money, right? He's like, well, what else is it going to take? I was like, well, it's going to take a lot of time too, right? Because those projects are large and they take a long time to design and construct. And so some of the things that we're trying to do now is to do looking at inlet expansion. So if you think about the city and our older neighborhoods, they were developed quite a while ago, and some of those inlets are very small, and that doesn't allow for as much water to get into the system as possible. So what we're trying to do is increase the capacity of the inlets. So that's one example. And then also with the flood mitigation program, where you can get reimbursed on flood mitigation practices at your own home. So those are two smaller things that we're trying to do to make this move forward more quickly. The other thing that we are working on now is called a flood resilience plan. So that's where we're taking a look across the entire city to see what we're missing with regards to flooding, because we do receive calls about flooding and they come in through 311, or maybe you contacted the mayor or the city manager, or someone on staff, or you called me and you had flooding, or your neighbor had flooding. But who are we not hearing from? And where might there be flood issues that we're not fully aware of? So we are going to be launching an outreach component to try to help determine that, maybe especially if people don't speak English as their first language, don't have a computer at home, maybe they're renters, and don't know about the city's 311 system, but they're still experiencing flooding. So we're trying to get a more broad approach to figure out where there could be flooding that we're just not fully aware of through that program or through the flood resilience planning effort. We have all sorts of things going on with our flood action, Alexandria. Just a couple of things I wanted to bring up on this slide. So if you're interested, you could definitely go dig deeper. Is we have rain gauges that we put up across the city in 2022, I think. So they've been active for a while. It's really fun if you're into data to really dig into those. You can really see the differences and how one storm could drop down like 3 inches of rain over in one neighborhood, 1 inch of rain in another neighborhood in the same time period. So we're seeing how the rains come in and how it's just different. And there's also triggers on different areas. If the rain is like pushing up too high, then you could get a warning. So on some culverts that we have in the city. So we have this rain gauge information. I will mention that we recently tied into the larger Northern Virginia rain gauge network through our partners at the Northern Virginia Regional Commission. We will be working through them to help educate and provide more outreach to the community on this regional rain gauge network that we now have and we're tied into. And we're hoping that it's going to provide more hyper local data because before we had one rain gauge and it was at the airport. So we have improved this step at least. We also have created a dashboard of projects to try to help keep the community informed of the different flood mitigation projects we're doing. We are doing a lot. We are putting a lot of money into this, a lot of time, a lot of expertise, and we want you to know about it. So we have all this online on our flood action website. And then also one thing that I think is super cool, because I'm definitely a history nerd, is we have created a story map of the history of flooding in the city. And it kind of takes us from back in the day up to now. And it's interesting to kind of just think about the city as it's developed over time. We used to not have so much hard surface and now we do, but we've always had storms, but now they're more severe. So just kind of thinking through all that is helpful and giving context. I think that's all I wanted to say there. I could talk about this stuff all night, so I'm just gonna. Okay. So for the grant program that we started, I will share that we do have a stormwater utility and flood mitigation advisory committee. They were created because a couple of residents got together and said that they wanted to provide oversight on what the city's doing with your money on flood mitigation. There were a lot of impacted communities from flooding, and they really wanted to stay informed and involved. And so council and the mayor and city manager decided to come up with an ad hoc committee. They had so much success that they dropped the ad hoc name off of it, and they continue to this day. So they are really important, and they not like really important, but they're really I guess important in helping us stay truthful to what we have been planning to do this whole time, right? So they're keeping us accountable. Thank you, that's the word I was looking for. They're holding us accountable. And at their last meeting, they meet every other month. At their last meeting, they shared, or maybe it might have been in a newsletter that they have, for the flood mitigation grant program. We as a city have given out over $1 million to, I want to say it was like 400 or 500 property owners. So this flood mitigation grant program has been pretty successful, I'd say, especially if they're 50-50 grants. So that means people have spent at least $2 million on flood mitigation. And I'll tell you, from those applications, they're spending way more than that, So people are doing their best to try to mitigate these floodwaters that are just becoming such a problem. And then I'll also add that the committee is looking into other incentives. So possibly like a tax incentive, or like maybe trying to think about a larger incentive for property owners who do mitigation on their property, so that you can get more money back for doing these types of practices. So the flood mitigation program that we have, it covers all the things that you see on the slide. So if you're doing any type of mitigation to your property, like windows and doors, basements and utilities, and exterior topography, and sloping something down away from your property, as long as it's not going onto your neighbor's property, it's sloping down and going into the street, like that could work too. We had started the program as a pilot program, and then it turned into a full flood, which meant that you had to prove that you had flooding dating back to 2019, but then we removed that requirement, and it opened it up to anybody who thinks they might be experiencing flooding even in the future. after these severe storms, we went out to neighborhoods and we talked to some people who were like, the water was like this close to coming inside my house, but it didn't. But I'm worried about next time, you know? So hopefully they've done some sort of flood mitigation effort and they've gone through this program and gotten some money. We did also include, based on feedback, we did include a subsection of the funding to be allocated for homeowner associations. So this is for like common areas or when there's multiple properties. So trying to think through like all the different types of properties in the city and how best to accommodate that. So that I just wanted to mention that the program is always evolving. And if you have feedback on either the practices or the amount of money or anything like that, we're always happy to entertain that. And then you can definitely go to the advisory, the Stormwater Utility Advisory Commission meeting and tell them your opinions there as well. They do have public comment period. Okay, so that's the second to last of my slides. So as I mentioned, we are going to be working on that flood resilience plan. We are hoping to do some like smaller outreach events this summer, maybe some pop-up events. So maybe you might see us at a farmer's market or at just a neighborhood talking about what we might plan to do. And then we'll have some larger outreach events in the fall. And I wanted to give a plug to our Eco City Festival. That's going to be happening on Saturday, May 10th at Ben Brenman Park. We would love to see all of you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, all of you there. I think it's going to be a really great time. Ben Brenman's beautiful. We recently installed a couple of educational signs out there so you can learn more about how that pond magically cleans the stormwater. It's not magic, but you can learn more about it. You can do a watershed walk. Happy to take you around there. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you. And if there's any questions